When I first started this channel, my very first deepest lore video was about Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. While making that video and first drafting a list of games that I wanted to cover for this series, I decided that I would skip over the 8-bit version of Sonic 1. The two versions of the game had very similar stories, multiple similar locations, and very little to distinguish them, so they made sense to be different interpretations of the same events. Ian Flynn, however, seems to be in disagreement with that fact, having cited Sonic 1 8-bit to be canon, and a different set of events from Sonic 1 on the Genesis. Well, damn. I guess I have to cover this now. Sonic the Hedgehog 8-bit was originally released on the Sega Master System in October of 1991, just 4 months after the Genesis version of this game. It was then released on the Game Gear in December of the same year. The story follows Sonic the Hedgehog as he tries to free South Island from the clutches of the villainous Dr. Ivo Robotnik, while collecting the 6 mysterious Chaos Emeralds hidden on the island. This is all sounding very familiar, isn't it? The stories of the games, as I said, are virtually the same. Even large parts of the manual cover very similar points. So I think our time here will be better spent focusing on the differences between the two games, in order to form a clear picture of what this game is, separate from its more mainstream counterpart. For one, let's look at the zones in this game. As expected, it keeps a number of the zones from the original game, including Green Hill, Labyrinth Zone, and Scrap Brain. It also adds a few new areas not seen in any previous Sonic game, Bridge Zone and Jungle Zone. The game also features a penultimate stage called Sky Base Zone, which shares a lot of thematic similarities to the Wing Fortress from Sonic 2 and the Flying Battery from Sonic & Knuckles. Sonic Mania drives these similarities home more, taking a lot of visual and mechanical influence from Sky Base Zone for Flying Battery Act 2. So this is probably another part of the evolution of Robotnik's forces that we've seen across the classic trilogy. The game also has 6 Chaos Emeralds, since the concept of a 7th Emerald wasn't introduced until Sonic 2, released the next year. However, unlike most games, the Emeralds aren't found in the special zones, but instead just hidden around the world in out-of-the-way locations, much like in the 8-bit version of Sonic 2. Finally, let's take a look at the manual. In English, the manuals are almost exactly the same, only changing slightly to remove references to removed elements, like Marble Zone, or add new ones like the blimp being the final stage. These similarities are also generally true in the Japanese, translations courtesy of Sonic Retro. While the 8-bit manual is much shorter, most of what we have is copied directly from the Genesis manual. There are a few notable things missing, however. For one, Sonic doesn't taunt Robotnik by name. Most of that exchange is removed, with the exception of "now the whole island is your enemy" statement. But the more interesting thing that's missing is relating to the Badniks. The Sonic 1 Genesis manual makes a very clear point that while the game was not the first time Sonic and Robotnik had fought, it was the first time he'd used flickies and the like to power his machines. The Game Gear manual simply mentions that he uses robots, entirely ignoring the fact that they're powered by animals. The manual doesn't entirely ignore the animals though. It mentions that they were locked in cages, but never talks about how they powered the robots. If we look in the game, we find this difference to be the same there. While in Sonic 1 Genesis we could see the freed animals escaping, upon defeating a Badnik in the Game Gear version, we get nothing. No escaping animals. It seems like the robots are being powered by something else. I wouldn't be making this point if the Genesis manual didn't make such a big deal about the shift to animal-powered Badniks, but this right here is probably our best source of timeline information about the game. Animal-powered Badniks remain a thing for the rest of the series, with even the advanced E-Series robots like Gamma and assumedly Omega having animals inside of them. So, if Robotnik had already started using them by this point, why would he stop just for his return to South Island? That's why it seems clear to me that Sonic 1 8-bit takes place before the events of the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to put it after Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, but if you disagree, that's completely fair. I put that game at the start of the timeline because of the lack of animals in the Badniks, similar to this game, and the lack of personal vendetta between Sonic and Robotnik. It makes sense to me that, after being humiliated by Sonic in Sega Sonic, he'd come to the island Sonic calls home and hit him personally. But of course, it could also be the other way around. I could see that narrative playing out just as well. Which one makes more sense to you guys? Of course, this placement also may not be canon anyways. Ian Flynn has made it clear that the manuals for the classic games are open to retcon, so this game could very well be shown to take place after Origins in the future, so having that viewpoint is valid as well. That's it for this game. It's a pretty quick video on a game I probably should have covered years ago. Thanks for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next episode.